Hey everybody, welcome to Shifty's Club. Guys, I hope you're not ticked off about me, getting the, you know, not getting videos out on time, and I'm very sorry about that. You guys know my webcam crashed, and I had to get a new one. Unfortunately, I couldn't get anyone to bring me to the store to go get one until Friday when I got my arm checked out back at the doctor, which is today. Today's Friday. Um, Good news and bad news. Good news is I actually got to wash, and I mean, I stood there and scrubbed until they got my arm into a new cast. I told them until they did, I was washing this arm because I didn't get to wash it for 2 weeks, and I do not like things that aren't washed. I know, right? But anyway, good news is it's clean. Bad news is I might never get to bend my wrist again. And you see it's red. Everybody knows why I pick red, go dogs. But in that case, not being able to ever bend my wrist again, maybe. I mean, those of you who actually watched me play football throughout my career, you know how much of a dominant force that I am in football. And you know that I would have made the NFL. Only problem was I had to deal with a broken wrist. And you know, I have to either go to coaching or you know or something. I was like, I really don't want to live in Vegas. I really don't want to go sports betting forever. I mean, it's not what I want to do with my life. It's just not. I don't care how much money is into it. It's just not something that I want to keep looking over my shoulder to make sure the mafia's not got a gun to my head. So, anyway, but enough of that. I I know you guys don't care much about my personal life, but those of you who do, after I got back from the doctor, I went to Walmart, McDonald's, Ingles. You guys that know me know I get my produce, not at Walmart because it's absolutely disgusting. And I like fresh produce that not a lot of people touch, regardless if I have to pay a little more for it. It still tastes better. And unfortunately, my Brita filter went out, and they were sold out of the Brita filters at the Walmart that I go to. So I have to drink bottled water. I love water. So anyway, you guys want to hear about Pokemon. Today is technically a Wednesday video, so we're going to talk about Extended. Now, following the Georgia States, we have learned a bunch of the metagame decks for the standard or limited modified format. But the extended format is a little different. Of course, almost any limited modified format deck or standard deck, we're just going to call it standard because, I'd rather call the same for Pokemon and Magic, but everybody knows what I mean by standard. Um, but anyway, in standard format, any one of those decks can pretty much compete in the extended format. There's not really too many cards that make that much of an impact in the other 6 sets. I mean, from Black and White to Dragons Exalted, there's almost nothing that really accounts for a huge percentage of the metagame. Of course, Rayquaza EX Electric is a deck that can pretty much only be made in the extended format. You have the dark type decks that can only run in extended if you plan on using dark patch, which I'm sure every single person who runs a dark type deck wants to try to run dark patch. And you have a couple of other cards that everybody thinks that they absolutely have to have, like Skynor Bridge, Level Ball, Heavy Ball, let's see, Prism Energy. So Next Destiny's had quite a bit of trainers that we could call valuable. Pretty much the only set that had a bunch of valuable trainers. You have the Dragons Exalted that has the blend energies. Those proved to be very useful. And That's why we tend to use more enhanced hammer in the extended format than we do Srasic, which brings me to my extended thoughts. Now, you guys are used to hearing decks, and I'm sure no one wants to keep hearing deck after deck. Instead, I'm just going to talk strictly about, today, I'm going to talk strictly about the extended format. Um, Now, everybody knows that in extended format we have a whole hoodoolin's worth of new cards to choose from, and the Prism Energy, Blend Energy, they account for a good portion of what we use. And most of those decks even run rainbow or double colorless, or even their respective special energy of a particular type, like, herbal, strong, mystery. You guys get the point. But anyway, the way that I can figure this out, that running 3 or 4 enhanced hammer in a deck is not a bad idea, especially in extended. Now, that's the only difference I'd have between most standard decks and extended decks, is that extended decks need to carry a high number of enhanced hammers. Now, I understand that decks like Electric and some of your inborn Blastoise decks that can efficiently run, they definitely don't need uh, enhanced hammer to play against, but I definitely would have them because 90% of your decks out there are heavily reliant on special energy. Now, what about those that aren't? Well, they require basic energy, and they require pretty much just one type. Because if you run basic energy, usually you're only going to run one, maybe two types of basic energy in a deck. And that completely limits the number of options you have in that particular type. For example, your fairy decks are very strong, but without any other energy, they have very limited resources they can use. Most of your fairy decks run just Aromatisse, Mega Gardevoir, and Cernius. And while it does work, again, you have to think that pretty much any metal deck can destroy it. Anything that discards special energy can get rid of wonder energy, and I'm thinking that, a lot of Seismitoad Garbodor decks, and just Garbodor in particular, would be very strong against these decks, and that's what it comes to, is that you have to have some sort of counter for all these different decks. Now, in Aromatisse, you have a couple of different possibilities, but I'll get to those in a second. In the extended, though, we see a lot of decks that rely on multiple types of Pokemon. I don't know how my mouth gets so dried out. Um, but I'll guarantee you that when it comes to the extended format, there's tons of cards that we can use, and there's tons of cards that we probably won't use as far as being part of the format. Now, with that said, we have tons of cards in standard that we would probably never think of using in extended format. For example, how many people do you see using cards like Trick Shovel, maybe, just the most random trainers that we know does work in some decks, and obviously those decks can do well or might not. Um, but if you really stop and think about it, how many cards can we use in extended that we can't use in how many can we use in extended that can't use in standard? Well, Pokemon Communication is probably our best card outside of it, because Pokemon Communication, we don't have anything like it in standard. Pretty much take a Pokemon and exchange it for another. That's it. And that is golden. I don't care what anyone says. There is almost no extended deck that is not going to run at least 10 Pokemon in the deck, because you have to have a hoodlum of options to run against the competition. For example, let me list the top 3 extended decks that I've had to go against in the TCG Online, as well as ones that I've seen do well, and those are electric variants, Ho-Oh variants, and since we're going to stick with decks that you can't really run in standard, and for, well, good reasons, you know, and pretty much the only other decks that you have are dark decks, and that's with 4 Dark Patch and Sableye. And these particular decks, they do well, but they do lack a couple of things. First off, you have dark type decks, and we're going to go ahead and pretty much just shoot the bird here. First off, Yveltal Darkrai is probably one of the greatest combos there are in pretty much Pokemon right now, because they're both the same type. One is weak to one type, and the other pretty much repels it. So, and I like how Yveltal is great against fighting types, even being a dark type, so it pretty much makes up for what Darkrai had to go against. But if you stop and think about it, there are plenty of things you can do to pretty much just stop this deck cold. And one of them that pretty much just absolutely just tears this deck apart is Lysander. Because at this point, you can pretty much just drag up any Pokemon you want, like Sableye. Everybody wants to get rid of the Sableye. And you pretty much pull up a Sableye or an Absol that's going to be sitting on the bench just waiting for the perfect time. And I've done this plenty of times where I drug up a Sableye and pretty much knocked it out with Landorus CX and took 30 extra damage on a benched Yveltal. And guess what? No resistance. And that's what I like about it. And I've had several times where I ran a Landorus, Mega Manectric, and Electric deck in the extended versus the dark type deck. And what I noticed, and believe me, this deck works. It really does. But basically, the idea here is to fuel up Mega Manectric on the bench, but you can also fuel up Landorus using Mega Manectric, or you can, but basically the idea here is to counter the water weakness. Now, what does Electric do, though, that really does anything? Well, it powers up multiple Mega Manectric. And trust me, once Landorus puts enough damage on the board to where Mega Manectric can pretty much just do whatever it wants, now it's just a battle of this free retreater attacking until, you know, something happens. Boom, swap to another free retreater. Boom, swap to another free retreater. It's just a continuous cycle until they Lysander something up. But if you're going to Lysander an Electric, you're going to knock it out. Otherwise, guess what happens? Whoop, Floatstone. So yeah, that does work. But anyway, like I said before, the Lysander is probably the worst thing that Yveltal Darkrai can face, because Landers can take complete advantage of this particular card when it's stuck active with 1 energy. You have to find some way to consistently keep this going, because sometimes you can't find the Mega, or sometimes they'll have a Darkrai you know, trying to get something done, and I'll have to hit a bench Darkrai because I can't hit for weakness with a Mega Manectric on that. But and Landers really is just too weak overall to do anything. But anyway, the deck's okay. I just wanted to test something out, and I did win. Just to let you guys know. and I lost the next 2 games. But in my own defense, I was playing against very tough decks in Seismitoads. And yeah, let's just say Megametrics. Not the best idea against Seismitoad when you're playing in or sorry, not unlimited, but the extended format. um, anyway, but like I said, the enhanced hammer starts to come into effect into the extended, but as we really look, we see decks like Ho-Oh can't use enhanced hammer, and Electric Variants can't use enhanced hammer. And those are pretty much the only three, like I said, that can't use enhanced hammer, the ones I called out earlier. And there's separate ways that you can use to pretty much beat them. Electric Variants, usually you can throw out Landorus with pretty much a muscle band, a strong energy, and a fighting stadium. It'd knock anything out for 180 damage after weakness. Or you can pretty much do a couple of other things, but I mean, I'm not really looking forward to a whole lot of the extended format. The most of your decks aren't really going to be extended oriented. A lot of them are going to be just standard decks with maybe 1 or 2 cards swapped out, because some players like to just play the same thing. They just want to make the cards better, or make the deck better with cards that are in the extended format, as to where they have an edge on competition. I know we're coming up about 15 minutes, but sorry guys. I'll be quicker though. Anyway, we know what happens when we go against Ho-Oh, Electric, Dark Evil Tall decks with Dark Patch. And they don't require special energy, so Enhanced Hammer is really, there's only 3 decks. And how often do you ever see Ho-Oh? Never. Dark Evil Tall? Never. And Electric? Kinda, maybe, sort of, but think about it. Electric can be knocked out like that, and has absolutely no room in extended anymore. Now that we have so much that can pretty much just boom, hit it from the bench with absolutely no effort whatsoever. And I can't wait for the set after Roaring Skies. Let's just say that Skyfield and Firetype will have its home. I can't really disclose what's going to be in the set after Roaring, or what's going to be in the set after Roaring Skies, because I'm supposed to keep my mouth shut. My cousin actually works in manufacturing for a Pokemon company. It's pretty cool. Or not my cousin. My cousin's friend works for it, and my cousin pretty much tells me, what's going on. He has no interest in it, and his friend doesn't either, but, it's a job for him. So, I kind of get inside information. But, basically, what we're looking at is one of the few concepts that we can use has very limited times where it can't be used. And Enhanced Hammer is probably the best card in format in extended. Plasma decks fall to it completely. Aromatisse Rainbow variants falls to it completely. You have so many decks that can absolutely just fall completely. You have some grass decks and fighting decks can fall to it completely because they run max amount of special energy for their type. And I can pretty much tell you right now that almost every extended deck there is out there runs some sort of special energy that they rely on. Double Colorless is by far one of the most popular. Seismitoad can fall if you use it early enough. It can. But let me tell you one of the ways that I absolutely love. And you guys are going to get inside information here. Now, I know absolutely nobody probably thinks of this, but one of the best ways that you can use to counter seismitoad is so simple that nobody even techs it. Malamar EX. Hear me out. If you attach an energy to Malamar EX, defending Pokemon's asleep. If they flip tails, guess what happens? You're not trainer locked. That's pretty cool. I've done it just to get out of the trainer lock. My favorite deck in Extended runs Malamar EX. And I'll go ahead and say what it is because, you know, I might not even make Extended coming regionals because I really don't know. I mean, you know, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to even move this. So I might just have to buy a automatic card shuffler, you know, if I can find one that actually can shuffle cards in sleeves. Um, I might have to get Wizards or Nintendo or even Ultra Pro to make me one. um, Probably a Japanese company might have one, you know. But anyway, the extended format, we have Malamar can pretty much take out Seismitoad if you hit the tails just right. I mean, 1 out of 2 chance. I mean, if you do it twice, what are the chances that you're going to get tails twice in a row? Not that great. And even then, I'm still going to say that a whole lot of decks are going to um, tech against all sorts of matchups and lose because they're teching more than they can afford. Well, Malamar can pretty much work in any situation. It can stop an attacker cold if given the right amount of support. Now, I understand a lot of people like to try to use Hypnotoxic Laser and in some decks they'll like to use Malamar to backup support, but why not just use Malamar by itself? I mean, it just makes sense to use Malamar because, ooh, sorry, man, because Malamar is able to take an energy and put a Pokemon to sleep. Stop Seismitoad pretty easily. Now, the rest of your field, I mean, if you're just going to build my favorite extended format deck, you got to have Floatio. It's a term I coined a while back. No one probably remembers it, but Floatio is Keldeo and Floatstone, or Floatstone Keldeo. Flowstone Keldeo. Floatio. Anyway, the concept is very good. Obviously, everybody knows what it does. Pretty much allows you to use its ability to pull it up front, free retreat, so you're never ever stuck. And there are several times when you are absolutely just beasting out the entire field, and this is one of those times. Since we already know one of the cards we're going to get in Roaring Skies that's coming out, and I don't have to worry about telling everybody this because, you know, it's out on Poke Beach. Anyway, one of the cards is Shaman EX. Play it down, and its ability allows you to, it's pretty much a Uxie setup except one less card. Pretty much draw cards and you have 6 cards in your hand. I love it. I'm a big fan of it, and I'm going to play it. And trust me, Shaman as is going to be a great combo. It's going to be one of those VS Seeker combos that you're going to just be able to pull off 2, 3, maybe 4 times in a game. But anyway, it's a very good combo, and I can't wait to use it. Another thing that I pretty much would absolutely love to put in a deck is cards like Darkrai EX or Virizion EX. Have those abilities that you can use whenever a particular energy is attached. Virizion I love because nobody wants wants you to not be able to be affected by special conditions, because almost every deck, and I said almost every deck, makes you affected by special conditions in some way or another. And it does get a little irritating. However, there are plenty of ways that you can Um, use the free retreat. Like I use Kellyo Floatstone because it's a lot more efficient. It really is. And Darkrai, I like it, but I'm not that big a fan of it. So, and several other cards you could probably mention, like Mr. Mime. It's a great card, love him to death. Ditto, you guys heard me before. I love little Ditto. So, you pretty much put all of your favorite concepts, all of your broken concepts into one deck. Now, so far, what would you have? And this is literally my extended deck. um, but anyway, pretty much the only way to run a deck like this would be either a grass type deck, which really wouldn't make any sense, or a deck that could swap the energy around like Hydreigon, Kling Klang, or Aromatisse. Well, here is probably the best thing ever. When it comes to decks that are able to pretty much just tear it up out there, you have Aromatisse, which doesn't require rare candy, and Kling Klang, which does, but you can move metal energy around. You also have another plasma one that prevents your metal type Pokemon from um, being pretty much just attacked overall. And I think that this is probably one of the few times that you would actually want to emphasize something like this. And sorry about that. um, one of my favorite things about, and I'm sorry, I'm rambling on because I'm trying to make something. I'm trying not to focus on who's out there. They're talking about me. Anyway, the differences that I found between Kling Klang and Aromatisse was that Kling Klang you had to use metal types, and I'm not really comfortable about trying to bust it out with metal types, even though Cobalion and Doggy EX are absolutely insane, especially Cobalion. Um, but anyway, the what I ended up going with is Aromatisse. Aromatisse is great, and you have awesome, amazing energy acceleration. Cernius EX, or not sorry, EX, but Cernius, Geomancy, choose 2 bitch Pokemon, and choose a fairy energy out of your deck. And remember, this says fairy, doesn't say basic. It just says the symbol. And that means we can get out Wonder Energy. And Pokemon, you absolutely, if you're Pokemon Company, you cannot, and I mean, you cannot errata Geomancy because you had no idea that 5 sets ahead of time you would have Wonder Energy. So there's no excuse that they could possibly do it. So that's why they haven't done it, is because they can't. They probably could try, but there would be a lot of people talking. Now, Geomancy, choose to your bench Pokemon, find a fairy energy to attach to them. That works pretty well. Now, usually you would want to get some kind of Pokemon that could most likely use them. I've chosen Mega Gardevoir. And the reason why is because the energy doesn't have to be on it. It can be on any Pokemon. And that means that I could have it on Cernius. I could have some on Aromatisse, another Mega Gardevoir. I could have it on a Virizion. I would have it on a Shaman, just say for friends that Shaman, but nah. No, Shaman would have been assed up already. But anyway, it's pretty much one of my favorite decks to run. It's got a little of everything. It pretty much takes for every single possibility you come across. It's a very organized and disruptive deck. You have to know how to play it in order to do well. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of people wondering how will this deck possibly do? Well, take the deck and use it for yourself. Pretty much just throw Aromatisse, Cernius, Mega Gardevoir EX, Keldeo, Virizion, Ditto, Mr. Mime, Shaman EX, Malamar EX. You know, it's just a really simple deck. And it works. And it probably will always work. Now, I know that most people wonder about the energy count. Well, you use Wonder Energy and Fairy Energy, but you also use Prism Energy. And the reason I say that is because there's only one truly evolved Pokemon that there is, and that's Aromatisse. Because technically, you are not going to have uh, Prism Energy on Mega Gardevoir. You're going to have it somewhere on the bench because you can use the energy from anywhere. And that's what I like about, Malamar EX, Virizion EX, they can pretty much just use this. And the best way of using um, Prism and Rainbow Energy are their effects that they can have, like a Virizion. And I prefer Virizion over Slurpuff because running Slurpuff overall just takes a little too much room to me. I'd rather run Rainbow and Virizion instead of running a more bulky line, because that way I have more energy to choose from. Obviously, you do stand against Enhanced Hammer, but you do run in, I know people are going to kill me for this, but you do run 8 Fairy Basic Energy. So, I mean, there's no way Mega Gardevoir is going to have a hard time getting anything done. But then again, what are we going to get? We are going to get, I think it's called Mega Turbo or Turbulence or something like that. Anyway, what this card does is take a energy from your discard pile and attach it to one of your Mega Pokemon. So, yep, Mega Gardevoir, you are absolutely wonderful now. You're set. And that's why I think this deck is going to do so much better, because the energy acceleration is going to be absolutely outstanding. And I'm sorry, guys, we're on 30 minutes. But I think these are some points that you guys probably want. And, I'm making up for lost time. I'm sorry that I didn't, get the videos up when I did. And I really am truly sorry. And I promise you there will be a piano video up for those of you who like music. Again, Pokemon players, if you don't like music, you don't even have to watch those videos. But again, there are a lot of great extended decks. Enhanced Hammer is probably MVP of extended because of all the decks that require special energy cards. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. Post any comments you have in the comment section down below. And as always, I hope you guys had a great time as I had, and I'll let you guys in. And I'll see you next time. Yeah. Shifty's. Oh, God, that hurts so badly.